This was our vision. We wrote down our scriptures that we have a pastor called of God, that we're a body of believers perfectly joined together, like-minded, no divisions. Speaking the word with boldness, we believe that the word is confirmed.
Teach my soul to sing your song.
In the beginning was the word, and a handful of people who believed the word. And we were determined to stand on the word.
A group of us had been part of another church that had relocated south, and we just felt that we needed a charismatic church in northern Door County. We began meeting in the fall of 2001, I believe it was. And we met every other week at the Diltz's home, Greg and Julie Diltz's house, and we tithed. Each time we prayed, we talked, and we just stayed together, believing that God would raise up another church.
Heidi Penshoff decided to do some online looking for a pastor, and she went onto the Rhema Bible School website and saw that they had an area where you could put in pastors wanted.
We really called in Pastor Ed in a way that I felt like when we met him, we knew him. Right before Christmas 20 years ago, or 21, I don't know how you would give me a date on that, we were praying. We were meeting together in houses, and we were praying, and we were doing what we did, and we felt really compelled to have a change offering. We felt really directed by God that he said, take up a change offering. So we all went out into our cars and into our purses, and we scrounged, and we got every coin that any of us had. There were handfuls of coins. We put a big bread bowl in the middle of the table, and we declared change, and we all threw in our change. And I can't explain what an anointing there was on that. It felt powerful. It felt like we were doing something, and it felt like God was doing something with us.
So it really began for me, if I go back a little bit, before our Door of Life era, was when I was really challenged by a family member about, maybe the Lord is dealing with you about starting something now. Doing something for God now. We always said we were going to start a church someday. And so as we were talking, he challenged me about that. And I remember thinking to myself, I really haven't prepared for that next step, and just felt the Lord saying to prepare a resume, just get ready. And within a week, I had received an email notification from Rhema, just indicating that they had some ministry opportunities. And the way they described it was expressed areas to start a new work. And so when I saw that, the very first one that popped up was Door County.
That was right at Christmas time. Then there was Christmas, there was New Year's. The Packers were in the playoffs. And after a Sunday playoff game, a Monday morning, Pastor Ed called. I had no voice left, but he'd seen our ad that we had placed at Rhema, and he called to inquire about it. And that was the beginning of how we connected with Pastor Ed.
And I remember having that contact with Heidi, and her voice was still hoarse from the Packer game the night before, but she was able to communicate well, and it was it was really an amazing thing to see God just begin to unroll these steps one after another.
We invited him. We also invited 4 other pastors. We lined them up 2 weeks apart, and he came, it was January, February of 2002, and I remember even before that time, we just had the sense that, like on a stage, the pastor was standing just behind the curtain, waiting for his cue to come out. And when he arrived, I said later that we had lined up 5. I said, I feel like I've been to a shoe store and had 5 pairs of shoes lined up, and I put on the first pair, and I just wanted to wear them home.
We first came in the dead of winter.
January.
And it was very
snowy.
cold, very snowy, and very out in the middle of nowhere. So we could tell it was beautiful because of the lake and Bailey's Harbor. It was one of the first stops we made just to kind of get out and look. But we kind of were like, oh, wow, it's kind of the end of the world.
Remember on the drive, that initial drive to Door County, Julie asked me in the car, she said, what do you think? What are your odds here? And I said, 50-50. I sense there's something here. Do I know that it's for sure it? I don't know, but I really feel like it could be it. And we'd had that initial service and it went really well. And they had asked us, kind of come back again. We'll say, all right, let's do this again. And it was on the way back from the first service that we had. She said, what are the odds now? And I said, wow, it's like 80-90%. I feel really good about this. Then we had that second service the next month, and then we knew, and we said yes. And that was February 18th, 2002.
I remember when I was 5 years old, and my dad told me that we were going to pastor a church, and so I was very excited about that, and I would not leave him alone. I would go into his room every day when he was reading his Bible, and I would say, when are we gonna start the church? And so he told me that we had to wait until God said it was time. I was 8 years old. 2002, we moved to Door County, and I was very excited but sad because I had to leave all of my friends. But this has just been the fruition of a dream since childhood, this church.
Once we started, we needed a name, and we had a lot of ideas. Ed and Julie decided on Door of Life because Door County was named for Death's Door, which is where all the ships and the Indian canoes and everything that went down between the mainland and Washington Island. And so this is to just counteract that we are Door of Life. Our first service was a Sunday morning in February at the Diltz's home. Susan Ash, Marsha Wilson, the Diltz's, the Penchoffs, us, and a few others gathered. The kids were little. Caleb was 2. The girls were 4, 6, and 8. Julie sat down to the piano and began worship. And my first thought, and many others, was, they know how to worship. And we found out later that Ed and Julie thought the same thing. They know how to worship. And I think that just really sealed it. There were so many things that had happened, and we were so blessed. We canceled all the other people that we had lined up to come to see about being a pastor, and just kept inviting Pastor Ed and Julie back. They told us later that they were kind of going, okay, is there any reason why we shouldn't come? Because they felt drawn, we were drawn, and we were such a small church. We were going to support a pastor and his wife and 4 children, but the Lord just had blessed us with the tithing that we had done for several months ahead of time. And so the Lord just worked out all the details.
I remember probably kind of a funny early on, before we officially even took the position, we met the Descharmes at the Northern Grill for dinner when we just pulled into town that night. And I remember just Julie and I and the whole gang, it was Whitney, Lindsay, Kaylee, Caleb at the time, and we were just in the parking lot. We're coming out, we just met the Descharmes there in the parking lot. It was actually kind of snowing, and Lee looked right at me and said, hey, Pastor. And as soon as he said pastor, my first thought was, did my pastor just come with us? And I just looked over and then he thought, oh, pastor, he's talking to me. And so it was such a funny moment, in that time, because it was always something out in the future. And I remember Lee, for the very first time, somebody ever calling me pastor. And it just struck me that, wow, this is the real thing.
We started meeting at Birchwood for our services. Our first service official officially was March 31st of 2002 at Birchwood.
That first Easter Sunday morning, when I went up there and we had that first service and praise and worship, was officially done, and I was really going to, officially pray over that opening service, I really sensed the presence of God just really come upon that service in a powerful way. It was something you couldn't see with your eyes, but you could really sense in the spirit.
We were there for about 3 years. They were relatively new, we were new. We both grew, and pretty soon we were not a happy thing for their guests with our loud music early in the morning. And so it was time for us to move on. We went to Wagon Trail, now Rowley's Bay, met in the Michigan Room, which was downstairs. We were there about 3 years as well. And then Dave and Mona Christensen found this place, which had been the Nordic Gallery, had been a restaurant.
I was taking a ride up to Sister Bay one weekday morning, and as I approached the hill on Highway 42, I saw the Nordic Art Gallery, which was formerly the Nordic Restaurant, where we frequented often when we came to Door County. On the property was a for sale sign and Agent Craig Bastion's number. I instinctively pulled into the parking lot and felt something special hit me. Call Pastor Ed right away. I did, and Ed came right over. We both sought the possibility of our new Door of Life home right in front of us.
And for me, the building's it's actually kind of funny because somebody had told me because I was kind of thinking about buying a condo or looking. They said, get a picture of what you like and put it on a wall and pray over it. So I did. On the back side was the church, the building for the church. I'm like, okay. And the other part for me is it used to be a restaurant. When it was first built, it was a restaurant, and I was a waitress there for a year, or a fall. So I had a little connections to the building beforehand.
We all came and took a look. It was decided to put a bid on, and there were other people in front of us, and no one could get their financing. So our turn came, and we had 10 days to come up with $107,000, which seemed almost impossible, and yet the Lord brought us $122,000 in that 10 days. And so then that summer, we were using sledgehammers, knocking out walls. The 2 rooms at the back, they were like little hotel rooms, and now expanded. They came into the nursery and the kids' church. Pastor Ed's study had a little whirlpool in the floor, but it wasn't deep enough for baptism, so it was decided to we better just make it a floor. And and a few other walls knocked out. Brian did a lot of the carpentry work, and I don't remember I think it was in August that we moved in, and we have been here ever since.
So I was working with a student to come up with the Door of Life logo. At the same time, we were trying to come up with a tagline, and there was really nothing all that incredibly spiritual about this, other than the fact that, we're all just trying to come up with something. So I know that a committee met, and there were a number of us on the committee, and you know how the Lord gives you some of the most brilliant ideas when you're doing mindless things? Well, I was in the shower, and that's where the tagline, "Where faith meets real life," came from. That's the story.
Some cool things behind the scenes, another church that we had been a part of that had kind of disbanded. We gave the chairs that we had, the pulpit, and I think a few other things to a small church in Algoma. It was also a Rhema church. And they grew, they changed pastors. The pastor was older, and he had passed away, and that church decided to disband. Now, this is several years has gone by, but they picked us as a Rhema church to give us all of their chairs, a sound system, a lot of nursery things. The chairs we sit in now are from them. And so we cast our bread on the water years before, and the Lord brought back in just a multitude. Another interesting behind the scene, Ed and Julie often said that even though their families had visited Door County a lot, they had just not even been aware of it. And so it wasn't like, oh yeah, we want to be in Door County. It was just, this was the opportunity. But the church that they were ministering in, where Paul and Dana are the pastors, and Paul is on our board, Dana was saved in Door County through the ministry of Ann Peterson, who has been one of our members forever as well. And so it's just all the wonderful connections that the Lord has done.
So when we started the church 20 years ago, I was the praise and worship leader, and doing things with kids too. I've always had definitely a heart for kids ministry and been involved in every church that we've been a part of in kids ministry to some extent, but I really wasn't sure, honestly, with Door of Life ultimately if my main calling was going to be the praise and worship or kids ministry at first. But just as the years went by, it just became more and more obvious that the kids ministry had my full heart. And very happy when we got our praise and worship leaders that came and kind of took that load off my plate with Jody and David. And I've really been able to focus on the kids, and it's been a joy to see through the years and go through pictures lately, just seeing all the different ones who came through, and yeah. We've done lots of Christmas kids programs and things through the years, and probably one of the funny highlights was when we had kind of a spontaneous childbirth experience with Mary during the Christmas program. That wasn't in the script. Yeah. The one Sunday morning, so we all got a good laugh out of that. But we've had lots of fun. It's been all the kids programs throughout the year. I think about the week before the date of the program, we have a freak out moment where this is not happening, it's not coming together, and then thank God the Holy Spirit helps it all come together at the end. And kids are great, and if they make a mistake, it kind of endears you to them a little more, so that's a good thing.
Sure. We first came to Door of Life back in the early 2000s when Pastor Ed and Julie moved to Door County and had started Door of Life. And early on, we began to feel stirred in our heart to move to Door County.
Well, to come alongside Julie and Ed was really
to help them with the church. So we started that truck and moved from Michigan, stopped along the way in Illinois.
Made a pit stop in Illinois, had Brooklyn.
Had another kid along the way, and arrived in Door County in 2010, April of 2010. We started plugging in and helping right away.
Well, Julie had Abby 2 weeks after we moved here, or 2 weeks or a week after we moved here. And so we could just step right in. She had been leading the worship, so then we just stepped right in. It was a really natural transition that way. It was fun just to sing with family again and to lead worship with family. That was a really cool dynamic, and just to learn the flow of the Holy Spirit together.
Door of Life has always been mission-minded, but when Mona and Dave joined us, they really raised that up because Mona is just amazing when it comes to missions.
I was on the ministry staff at Bayside Christian Fellowship as ministries director, and I worked closely with Dennis Nademacher, who at the time was the missions pastor there. In 2002, we both left the ministry there. I went back to the university, and Dennis started working with Pathfinders International, and that eventually spun into Going Global. So all through the 2000s, actually we started in the year 2000, and every year we were going to Myanmar. So at the time that Door of Life started, like in 2002, and even all the way through the 2000s, I was already going to Myanmar and had already started to make some connections with the Andaman Islands. So it was just a really natural thing for missions teams to start going to Myanmar and to the Andaman Islands, even as recently as 2019, because I had been going and connected with Going Global all along the way anyway. So that's the connection with Going Global, and we're just really, really happy that Door of Life is partnering with Going Global and joining forces with all of the other churches around the country who are partnering with them.
So that's just been a wonderful addition to the ministry of Door of Life, as well as the Bridges organization, where we work with the international students who come to work in Door County. And we have hosted events here and gotten to know a lot of the kids.
Something that I think is important is we had talked about God encounters, and I think that change resonates with me, as that change was a God encounter that I still feel when I go to Door of Life. And I see change all over the place. I see people's lives changed. I see people's hearts changed. I see people just getting more free all the time. And I feel like that's just that word that's just consistently been there. And that's such a living encounter that I still feel.
This has just really been our home. We love it here. Our daughter was at ORU and would go to the different churches and say, oh, this is the best worship, this is the best kids ministry, this is the best youth, this is the best teaching. And when she came here for a while, she said, oh, this church is the best of all of it. And so we've just been very, very thankful for all that God has done, for the people that have been here, for the blessings, the words, the ministry that we've received and that we've been able to take part in. It's been a wonderful, wonderful place to be.
There's such a community. There's such a heart for each other. I really feel like it's a safe place. We've gone through things that have been hard, and I never felt like Door of Life wasn't the safest place in the world for me.
The people that are here, the church family for Door of Life, are the best church family you could ever hope for. We were embraced and welcomed and included like we've always been here. It's been just an amazing experience. From the Helps Ministry to the Door of Life Garden that's out front. Working with people, coordinating things has just been a real pleasure. We've enjoyed it.
We were looking for a good non-denominational church, and Donna found Pastor Ed in the Door of Life on YouTube, and we've been coming here ever since. Between Pastor Ed's messages and the worship team's songs and skills and everyone else involved, there's no place we'd rather be this side of heaven.
Through different decisions I've had to make and just hard things I've gone through, beautiful things I've gone through, just so many things, I've really been embraced by the people there as family, and so many people at the church like I would consider family at this point, and just a lot of wisdom and just beautiful things shared. So yeah, I'm really thankful to celebrate 20 years at Door of Life. I'm not at Door of Life for 20 years. I'm really excited to celebrate 20 years of Door of Life and hearing about the history of it. It's awesome.
My heart wants to just say to you, the core group who was obedient in carrying through the vision that God gave you, I want to say thank you. And to you, Pastor Ed, Julie, your precious family, thank you for answering the call. Because your ministry and the ministry of our precious family at Door of Life has not only touched immeasurably our lives, but those of so many. Door County wouldn't look the same without Door of Life, and neither would we.
I just appreciate our church family so much. I've heard from visitors, people, our family that'll come or, visit. They're just like, you walk in and you sense this family love here that's special, and I really have sensed that. And that's not us, it's the body, it's the people, and it's a blessing. And I really appreciate it. It really is a family.
Yeah, and I just concur. I've said that. I said, if I wasn't pastoring here, I'd come here, just because it's such a great family. It's a place where you can feel supported, people that'll pray for you. Yes. We're all kind of going through our different ups and downs at different times, and it doesn't really matter. We come in behind each other, and there really is such a unity of the Spirit and the bond of peace that really makes this a special place. So we just love this Door of Life family, and we're very thankful for them.
Wonderful people.
Yeah.
Set your face to Zion and see great things has our God yet to bring. Every step I will choose to believe that your promise is unraveling. Set your face to Zion and see great things has our God yet to bring. Every step I will choose to believe that your promise is unraveling. Carry on, all you pilgrims. Don't lose heart, for the journey is long. At the end of your wanderings, lift your hands and bless the Lord. Carry on.
So we're just really excited for what God is doing, and just also where we're going spiritually. We're on this journey together as a spiritual family, and I've just noticed, even as a pastor, that the church is just continuing to grow, get excited about their walk with the Lord, and I'm just excited about where we're going, just spiritually, as we're growing up together. We're getting to know the Lord better and just walking in what He has for us. So very excited.